The library door creaked open, and Lady Thea Pemberton felt her chest tighten. She pressed herself deeper into the corner between the tall mahogany shelves, hoping the shadows would swallow her whole. Her fingers trembled against the leather spine of the book she held. She knew that footstep. Heavy, confident, belonging to a man who owned everything in this house, including her fate. Lord Sebastian Thornwick entered the room with the lazy grace of a predator. He was a tall man with dark hair and eyes like winter storms. His title was Duke of Ashworth. His reputation was colder than December frost. Thea had been sold to him 3 weeks ago in a marriage arranged by her stepmother. 3 weeks of living in his grand estate. 3 weeks of trying to become invisible. She held her breath and did not move. Perhaps he would take what he needed and leave. Perhaps he would not notice her at all. Most people did not. Her stepmother had told her often enough that she was plain. Forgettable. A burden who should be grateful anyone would have her at all. "Your breathing changes when I enter the room," Sebastian said quietly. Thea's heart stopped. She looked up slowly. He stood at the entrance, but his eyes were fixed on her hiding spot. How had he known? She had made no sound. She had been so careful. I did not mean to disturb you, Your Grace," she whispered. Her voice came out small and broken. She hated how weak she sounded. "I will leave at once." She moved to step around the shelf, but he was faster. He crossed the room in 4 long strides and placed his hand against the bookshelf beside her head. His arm blocked her path. She was trapped between him and the books. The scent of sandalwood and something darker wrapped around her. Her pulse hammered so loud she was certain he could hear it. "You are not disturbing me," he said. His voice was low and rough, like gravel under silk. "Why do you run from me, wife?" Wife. The word sounded strange from his lips. They barely spoke. They had separate rooms. Their wedding night had been nothing but silence and space between them. She was his wife only on paper. A transaction completed. A duty fulfilled. "I do not run, Your Grace." She kept her eyes down. Looking at him felt dangerous, like staring at the sun. I prefer solitude." "Liar!" The word cracked through the air. Thea flinched. She waited for anger, for punishment. Her stepmother had taught her well what happened to girls who lied. But Sebastian only leaned closer. She could feel the warmth of him now. She could see the details of his cravat, the sharp line of his jaw, the small scar near his left eyebrow. "You fear me," he said softly. "Your breath becomes shallow. Your hands shake. Your eyes search for escape routes." He paused. Why? Because powerful men were dangerous. Because her stepmother's husband had taught her that marriage meant suffering. Because she had learned to make herself small and quiet to survive. Because no one had ever been kind to her without wanting something in return. But she could not say these things. So she said nothing. Sebastian studied her face for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. The hardness softened just slightly. He stepped back and dropped his arm. The escape route opened. "You may stay," he said. "The library is yours as much as mine. Read what you wish. You need not hide from me, Lady Thornwick." He turned and walked to the large desk by the window. He sat down and pulled papers toward him. He picked up a pen. He began to write. He dismissed her completely. Thea stood frozen. She did not understand what had just happened. He had cornered her, yes. But then he had let her go? Given her permission to stay in his space? It made no sense. She glanced at him. His dark head was bent over his work. Afternoon light streamed through the window and turned the edges of his hair bronze. His shoulders were broad beneath his coat. His hands moved with surprising grace as he wrote. He did not look at her again. Slowly, carefully, Thea sat down in the chair furthest from him. She opened her book, but she could not focus on the words. Her mind kept returning to his question. Why do you fear me? And to his statement. Your breathing changes. He had been watching her, noticing her, paying attention. No one ever paid attention to Thea. 6 months earlier, Thea had still lived in her father's house, except it had not felt like her father's house anymore. It had become her stepmother's domain, her prison. You are 23, Lady Constance had said that morning over breakfast. She said it like an accusation, like Thea had committed a crime by existing so long. Far too old to be unwed, a burden on this household. Thea had kept her eyes on her plate. The eggs had gone cold. Her stomach had twisted too tight to eat anyway. Across the table, her 2 stepsisters giggled behind their hands. They were 17 and 18, pretty and cruel in the way of girls who knew they were valued. No man wants an old maid, Constance continued. Her voice was sharp enough to cut. Especially one so plain. You should be grateful I have found anyone willing to take you at all. The Duke of Ashworth has agreed? Thea's father spoke for the first time. He sounded tired. He always sounded tired now, since his first wife died, since he married Constance, since he stopped fighting for anything. He requires a wife quickly, Constance said. His mother was a dear friend of mine. He needs someone to manage his household, someone quiet and biddable, someone who will not cause trouble or expect affection. She smiled coldly at Thea. Someone exactly like our Thea. The words landed like stones. Quiet, biddable, unworthy of affection. Thea had heard them all before. She had learned to let them roll off her back, to pretend they did not hurt. But they did hurt, every single time. When? Her father asked. 3 weeks. The contracts are being drawn. She should begin packing. And that had been that. Thea's life decided over cold eggs and cruel smiles. No one asked what she wanted. No one cared. She was a problem being solved, a burden being lifted. The night before the wedding, her father had come to her room. He had stood in the doorway, looking at her with sad eyes. Eyes that reminded her of the man he used to be, before grief hollowed him out. I am sorry, daughter, he had whispered. I am sorry I could not protect you better. Then he had left, and Thea had cried into her pillow until no more tears would come. The wedding ceremony was small and cold. Sebastian had looked at her once during their vows. His eyes were empty. She wondered what tragedy had carved such emptiness into a man. She wondered if he would be cruel like her stepmother's husband, if her life was simply trading one prison for another. The wedding breakfast was worse. Constance had smiled and laughed and played the devoted stepmother. She had kissed Thea's cheek and whispered, "Do try not to embarrass us. Be grateful he was desperate enough to take you." Thea had smiled and nodded. She had thanked everyone for coming. She had climbed into Sebastian's carriage and watched her father's house disappear behind them. She had not looked back. Sebastian Thornwick had not wanted a wife. He had wanted to be left alone with his grief and his duties and his empty house. But his mother's will had been clear. Marry before his 30th year or lose the duchy to his cousin. A stupid medieval rule, but binding nonetheless. So he had married. He had chosen the most undemanding option presented to him. A plain girl from a respectable family. A girl who would not expect romance or attention. A girl who would leave him alone. Except, she was not leaving him alone. Not in the way he had expected. She haunted his house like a ghost. He would catch glimpses of her in hallways, hear the whisper of her skirts disappearing around corners, find books left open in the library with careful notes written in margins. She was everywhere and nowhere at once, and she was terrified of him. It had taken him 2 weeks to realize it. 2 weeks of watching her flinch when he entered rooms, of seeing her hands shake when she poured his tea, of noticing how she made herself small and quiet and invisible whenever he was near. It had taken him another week to realize it bothered him. He did not know when he started paying attention, when he began noticing the small things. The way she was kind to the servants, how she had reorganized the library with surprising efficiency, that she woke early and walked in the garden before breakfast, that she had a small smile she gave to flowers but never to people. He did not know when her fear started to feel like an accusation. He had been alone for 3 years, since his parents died within months of each other, since his engagement ended when Lady Caroline decided she preferred a man who could still smile, since he had locked himself in this house and tried to forget how to feel anything at all. He had been successful until Thea arrived. Now he noticed things, like how her breathing changed when he entered rooms, how she held books like they were treasures, how she never asked for anything, not new dresses, not pin money, not even basic comforts. It was wrong. He knew it was wrong, but he did not know how to fix it. So, when he found her hiding in the library that day, something inside him snapped. He had been watching her for 3 weeks, learning her habits, noticing her. And she had been running from him the entire time. He had not meant to corner her, but once he had her trapped between him and the bookshelf, he could not seem to step back. Not immediately, not until he understood why. Your breathing changes when I enter the room. It was true. He heard the shift, the catch, the way her breath became shallow with fear. He hated that sound. He wanted to hear her breathe freely, easily, without terror. He had stepped back, let her go, tried to show her she was safe. But the look in her eyes had told him she did not believe it. That night at dinner, Sebastian made a decision. They ate in the formal dining room, with 12 feet of polished table between them. Thea sat at the far end, barely touching her food. She wore a gray dress that washed out her skin. Her brown hair was pulled back severely. She looked like she was trying to disappear. "Tomorrow we will dine together," he said. She looked up, startled. "Your Grace?" "At the small table in the morning room. This is ridiculous." He gestured at the vast, empty space between them. "We are married. We need not dine like strangers." "As you wish, Your Grace." That quiet, defeated acceptance. It grated on him. He wanted her to argue, to have opinions, to act like she had some agency in her own life. "Sebastian," he said. She blinked. "I beg your pardon?" "My name is Sebastian. You are my wife. You may use it." "That would not be proper, Your Grace." "Nothing about this marriage is proper. Use my name." A long silence stretched between them. Thea's fingers twisted in her napkin. She looked trapped again, like he was forcing her into something dangerous. "Sebastian," she finally whispered. The name sounded strange in her voice, uncertain, but also softer somehow. Something warm uncurled in his chest. He did not examine it too closely. "Better," he said, "and I will call you Thea, if that is acceptable." She nodded slowly. "Yes, that is acceptable." The rest of the dinner passed in silence, but it felt different, less cold. A small bridge built across the empty space. When Thea excused herself, Sebastian found himself watching her leave. Really watching. The way she moved. The proud set of her shoulders despite her obvious fear. The grace she tried to hide. His housekeeper, Mrs. Kimball, entered to clear the table. She was an older woman who had served his family for 40 years. She did not fear him the way others did. She treated him like the boy he used to be, instead of the cold duke he had become. "She is a good girl, that one," Mrs. Kimball said as she stacked plates. Kind to everyone, never demanding, never cross. Yes, Sebastian agreed. Too quiet, though. Too careful. Like she is waiting for something bad to happen. Mrs. Kimball fixed him with a sharp look. Some people learn to be that way, Your Grace, from being hurt too often. The words landed like a punch. Sebastian thought about Thea's stepmother, the cold woman at the wedding who had smiled too brightly, the way Thea had flinched from her kiss, the bitter thanks she had whispered. He thought about Thea's fear, about how she hid in corners and made herself invisible, about how she never asked for anything. Tell me about her, he said quietly. What have you noticed? Mrs. Kimball settled into a chair uninvited. It was improper. He did not care. She wakes at dawn, the housekeeper began. Walks in the garden alone. She talks to the flowers, gentle-like. She helps the maids with small tasks, even though she does not have to. She reorganized the linen closet last week because she noticed it was inefficient. She has not asked for a single new dress, even though the ones she brought are old and plain. Sebastian listened. Each detail added to the picture forming in his mind. A woman who had been told she was worthless, who had learned to expect nothing, who found joy in flowers because people had failed her. She cries sometimes, Mrs. Kimball added softly. At night. Very quietly. Like she does not want anyone to hear. That last detail broke something in Sebastian. The image of Thea crying alone in her bed, too afraid to make noise, too used to suffering in silence. That will stop, he said. His voice came out rough, almost angry. She will not cry alone in my house. Mrs. Kimball smiled. No, Your Grace. I suspect she will not. The next evening, Thea entered the morning room with careful steps. The small table was set for two. Candles glowed softly. Sebastian stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back. He turned when she entered. Thank you for joining me, he said, as if she had a choice. But his voice was gentler than before. He pulled out her chair. She sat, surprised by the gesture. Men of his rank did not usually attend to such things. They had servants for that. The meal was simple. Roast chicken, fresh vegetables from the garden, good bread. But the portions on her plate were generous. She realized he must have told the cook to serve her more. She had been eating like a bird, too nervous to do more than pick at food. The garden is beautiful, Sebastian said as they ate. Mrs. Kimball tells me you spend time there each morning. Thea glanced up, surprised he knew. Yes. I hope that is acceptable. I do not mean to intrude on your space. It is your space now. Your home. You may go where you wish. Your home. The words felt foreign. This grand estate with its marble floors and priceless paintings and rooms she had not even explored yet. How could this be her home? I have always loved gardens, she said softly. My mother had one. Before she died. She taught me the names of all the flowers. It was the most she had said to him at once. Sebastian leaned forward slightly. Tell me about her. She was kind, patient. She loved beautiful things. Thea smiled at the memory. She said gardens were proof that life continues, that even in winter the roots are preparing for spring. A wise woman. Yes. Thea's smile faded. I miss her very much. How old were you when she passed? 12. And your father remarried when? 2 years later. Sebastian nodded slowly. He understood now. A girl of 14, still grieving, given a cruel stepmother. Years of being told she was worthless. Years of learning to hide and stay quiet and expect nothing. I lost both my parents 3 years ago, he said. Fever took them within weeks of each other. Thea's eyes widened. She looked at him with sudden understanding. I am so sorry. It was difficult. They were the center of everything. When they were gone, the world became very cold. He did not know why he was telling her this. He had not spoken of his parents' deaths to anyone, not even Caroline before she left him. But something about Thea's quiet presence made the words come easier. Yes, Thea said softly. Loss makes everything colder. Their eyes met across the small table. Something passed between them. Recognition. The understanding of shared pain. The knowledge that they were both broken pieces trying to function in a world that demanded wholeness. Do you play? Sebastian gestured to the pianoforte in the corner. A little. I am not accomplished. I would like to hear you, if you are willing. It was a request, not a command. Thea stood slowly and moved to the instrument. Her fingers shook as they found the keys. She began to play a simple melody. Nothing fancy, but it was beautiful in its simplicity, pure and true. Sebastian closed his eyes and listened. He had not heard music in this house for 3 years. He had not wanted to. But now, with Thea's uncertain notes filling the room, something in him began to thaw. When she finished, he opened his eyes. That was lovely. She shook her head. It was barely adequate. My stepsisters are far more talented. She stopped, looked down. Forgive me. I should not speak of them. Why not? It is ungrateful. They were kind to take me in after my father could no longer, after things became difficult. Kind. The word was bitter in the air. Sebastian heard what she did not say. That they were not kind. That it had been difficult. That she had survived something painful. Thea. He stood and crossed to her. She tensed as he approached, but did not flee. You need not hide your past from me. Whatever happened before, you are safe here. She looked up at him. Her eyes were wide and uncertain. Am I? The question hit him like a blade. Yes, I swear it. You do not know me. I am nothing special. I am not pretty or accomplished or interesting. I do not understand why you would make such promises. You think very little of yourself. I think accurately of myself. My stepmother made certain I understood my place. Anger flared hot in Sebastian's chest, not at Thea, at the woman who had broken her spirit so thoroughly, at everyone who had failed to protect this gentle creature. Your stepmother was wrong, he said firmly. You are here because I chose to marry you, and now that I am coming to know you, I find I am glad I did. Thea stared at him. You cannot mean that. I do not say things I do not mean. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she did not, he took her hand. It was small and cold in his. You are kind. You are thoughtful. You care for others. You find joy in flowers and books and simple things. These are not worthless qualities. They are rare and precious. A tear slipped down her cheek, then another. Sebastian watched them fall and felt something crack open in his chest. When was the last time someone had cried in front of him? When was the last time he had cared? I do not know how to believe you, Thea whispered. Then I will simply have to keep saying it until you do. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and gently wiped her tears. She let him. The trust in that small gesture felt enormous, sacred even. They stood together in the candlelight, her hand in his, something new and fragile building between them. Sebastian did not have a name for it yet, but it felt like the first warm day after a long winter. It felt like hope. The days began to change, slowly at first, then faster. Sebastian started finding excuses to be where Thea was. He took morning walks in the garden. He spent afternoons in the library. He insisted they take all meals together. At first, Thea remained nervous and uncertain. But gradually, she began to relax. Her smiles came easier. Her laughter started to emerge, soft and rusty, like something long unused, but beautiful. 2 weeks after their dinner in the morning room, Sebastian found her in the rose garden. She was kneeling in the dirt, examining a struggling plant. She had mud on her dress and leaves in her hair. She looked utterly unself-conscious and completely lovely. "The gardener says this one is dying," she said without looking up. She had stopped flinching when he approached. The realization made him absurdly happy. "But I think it can be saved. It just needs better soil and more water." Sebastian knelt beside her. His fine trousers pressed into the dirt. He did not care. "Show me." She looked at him surprised. "You wish to help?" "I do." So, she taught him about roses, about soil conditions and watering schedules and pruning techniques. Her voice grew animated. Her eyes lit up. She forgot to be careful and quiet. She was just herself. And Sebastian found himself captivated. He had thought her plain at their wedding. He had been blind. She was not plain at all. She had soft brown eyes that reflected everything she felt. Smooth skin that flushed when she was happy or embarrassed. A mouth that curved sweetly when she smiled. She was beautiful in a quiet way, in a real way. "There," Thea said, patting the soil around the rose. "That should help. You have a gift for this." She shrugged. "I spent a lot of time in gardens. They were the only place I felt free. You are free now. You know that, yes?" She met his eyes. "Sometimes I forget. Then I remember that this is real, that you have been kind, that perhaps—" She trailed off. "Perhaps what? Perhaps life can be different than I thought it would be." Sebastian reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers brushed her cheek. She inhaled sharply but did not pull away. "It can be, Thea. I will make certain of it." That night he lay awake thinking about her, about the way she had looked in the garden, about her laugh, about the small, tentative trust she was giving him, about how much he wanted to deserve it. He was falling in love with his wife. The realization should have terrified him. He had spent 3 years avoiding feeling anything. Love meant vulnerability. It meant risking loss. It meant opening himself up to pain again. But as he thought of Thea's smile, he found he did not care. She was worth the risk. The turning point came 3 weeks later. They were hosting a small dinner party. Sebastian's aunt had insisted. She wanted to meet the new Duchess. Several local families were invited. Thea had been nervous for days. "I am not good at these things," she had told him. "I say the wrong things. I make people uncomfortable." "You will be perfect," he had assured her. "Just be yourself." But as the guests arrived, Sebastian saw Thea's confidence crumbling. She stood in the receiving line, hands clasped tight, smile brittle. She was retreating back into the scared girl he had first married. Lady Ashton, a notorious gossip, looked Thea up and down. "So you are the new Duchess. How unexpected. I had heard the Duke would marry Lady Caroline." "Caroline and I were not suited," Sebastian said coldly. "Indeed. Well, I am sure Lady Thornwick will grow into the role. Eventually." The dismissal in her voice was clear. Thea was not good enough. Not pretty enough. Not accomplished enough. Thea's face went pale. Sebastian felt rage simmer in his blood. But before he could speak, his aunt Lady Margaret swept in. How wonderful to finally meet you, dear. She kissed Thea's cheek warmly. Sebastian has written such lovely things about you. He says you have transformed the library and the gardens. I cannot wait to see. Thea glanced at Sebastian, surprised. He had not told her about his letters to his aunt, about how he had described her kindness, her intelligence, her gentle strength. The dinner itself was worse. Lord Bramwell made snide comments about country girls being out of their depth. Mrs. Ashton compared Thea unfavorably to London ladies. Even Lady Caroline's name was mentioned several times, always with pitying looks at Thea. Sebastian watched his wife grow smaller with each comment. She barely touched her food. She spoke only when directly addressed. She was disappearing before his eyes. When the ladies retired to the drawing room after dinner, Sebastian excused himself early from the men. He found Thea standing alone on the terrace, staring at the dark garden. Her shoulders shook. She was crying. Thea. She turned quickly, wiping her eyes. I am sorry. I needed air. I will return. Do not apologize. He crossed to her in 2 steps. Those people are cruel and small-minded. You have nothing to be ashamed of. I embarrassed you. Lady Ashton was right. I am not fit to be a duchess. I do not know the right things to say or how to act or— Stop. Sebastian took her shoulders gently. Listen to me. You are exactly fit to be duchess. You are kind where they are cruel. You are genuine where they are false. You have more grace in your smallest finger than Lady Ashton has in her entire being. You do not mean that. You are just being kind. I have never been kind in my life. I am telling you the truth. He cupped her face in his hands, making her look at him. You are extraordinary, Thea. I see it even if you cannot. And if those people make you feel less than you are, then they are not welcome in our home. Our home? Yes, ours. Not just mine, yours too. And no one speaks to my wife that way in her own home. Something shifted in Thea's expression. Wonder, disbelief, the beginning of hope. Why do you defend me? Because you are mine to defend. But I am nothing. You married me out of obligation. I married you out of necessity. I am defending you because— He paused. The truth sat on his tongue, large and terrifying and absolutely certain. Because I care for you. Very much. Thea's eyes widened. You care for me? Yes. But how? Why? How could I not? You are everything I did not know I needed. You are light in this dark house. You are warmth in my cold life. You are— He took a shaking breath. You are becoming essential to me, and I cannot stand by while others hurt you. Tears streamed down her face, but they were different tears now. Not pain, something else. I care for you too, she whispered. I tried not to. I tried to stay distant. But you have been so kind, so patient, so— He kissed her. He did not plan it, but suddenly his mouth was on hers, and his arms were around her, and she was pressed against him. She made a small sound of surprise. Then her hands came up to his chest. For a moment, he thought she would push him away. Instead, she gripped his coat and pulled him closer. The kiss was gentle, tentative. Both of them were out of practice, both unsure. But it was perfect. It tasted of salt from her tears and smelled of her rose soap. It felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, Sebastian pressed his forehead to hers. Come with me, he said. He led her back into the house, into the drawing room where the guests waited. Conversations stopped as they entered. Everyone stared. Sebastian knew how they must look. Thea's eyes red from crying, his cravat askew. Both of them disheveled. He did not care. "Lady Ashton," he said clearly. "Lord Bramwell. I am afraid I must end the evening early. My wife is unwell." "Oh, how unfortunate," Lady Ashton said with forced sympathy. "Perhaps she is not used to such refined company. She is unused to such poor manners," Sebastian interrupted. His voice was ice. "In the future, anyone who cannot treat my Duchess with the respect she deserves will not be welcome here. I trust I make myself clear." Shocked silence filled the room. No one moved. No one breathed. The Duke of Ashworth was known for being cold and distant, not for open displays of emotion or protection. "Sebastian," his aunt murmured, but she was smiling. "Good night," he said firmly. "My staff will see you out." He offered Thea his arm. She took it, trembling. Together they walked from the room. Behind them, the guests erupted in whispers. Sebastian did not listen. He had eyes only for Thea. In the hallway, she turned to him. "You just dismissed half the county on my behalf." "I did. They will gossip terribly." "Let them. You will be called whipped, besotted, ruled by your wife." "I am besotted. I am ruled by you." He pulled her close again. "And I do not care who knows it." Thea laughed. It burst out of her like music. Real laughter. Free and joyful. "You are mad." "Perhaps. But I am yours." She looked up at him with shining eyes. "And I am yours." "Yes, you are mine, and I am never letting you go." He kissed her again, deeper this time, with all the emotion he had been holding back, all the love he had been too afraid to name. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "Come," he said. "Let me show you how much you mean to me." He led her up the stairs, to his chambers, not hers. She did not protest. She simply held his hand and followed. And for the first time since his parents died, Sebastian's heart felt full. The next morning, Thea woke wrapped in Sebastian's arms. Sunlight streamed through windows. She could hear birds singing. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming, that she would wake and find herself back in her small room in her father's house, unloved and alone. Then Sebastian stirred. His arms tightened around her. He pressed a kiss to her hair. "Good morning, wife." Wife. Not the cold title from before, but warm, possessive, loving. "Good morning," she whispered. "How do you feel?" "Like everything has changed." "It has." He rolled to face her. His dark hair was mussed. His eyes were warm. He looked years younger. "I love you, Thea. I should have said it last night, but I am saying it now. I love you." Her breath caught. "Truly?" "With everything I have." Tears pricked her eyes. Happy tears this time. "I love you too. I have been falling in love with you for weeks. I was simply too afraid to believe it was real. It is real. I am real. This is real." He kissed her softly. "And I am going to spend the rest of my life proving it to you." They stayed in bed longer than was proper, talking, laughing, learning each other. Sebastian told her about his parents, about his lonely childhood. about how grief had nearly destroyed him. Thea told him about her mother, about the cruelty she had endured, about how she had learned to survive by becoming invisible. "You will never be invisible again," Sebastian promised. "I see you. I will always see you." When they finally dressed and went downstairs, they found chaos. Lady Margaret was in the breakfast room, beaming. "Oh, good. You are awake. I sent the servants away so we could talk privately." "Aunt Margaret," Sebastian started. "About last night. Was absolutely perfect." She clapped her hands. "Do you know how long I have waited for you to act like a man in love instead of a cold statue? And you, dear Thea, you are exactly what he needs. Exactly what this family needs." Thea blushed. "I did not mean to cause trouble." "Nonsense. You caused a scandal, which is precisely what was needed. Those stuffy bores needed shaking up, and Sebastian needed to remember how to feel." She stood and kissed them both. "I am so happy for you, for both of you." After she left, Sebastian pulled Thea into his arms. "See, even my aunt approves." "Your aunt is unusual. She is wonderful, and she is right. You are exactly what I need." The following weeks were like a dream. Sebastian courted Thea properly. He brought her flowers from the garden. He commissioned new dresses in colors that made her glow. He took her riding and on picnics and to the village. He introduced her to tenants as "my beloved wife," with such pride that she blushed each time, and Thea bloomed. She laughed freely now. She stated opinions. She made decisions about the house. She began to believe what Sebastian told her every day, that she was loved, that she was valued, that she was exactly where she belonged. One afternoon they were in the library together. Thea was reading in her favorite chair. Sebastian was supposed to be working, but he kept watching her instead. The way sunlight caught in her hair. The small smile that played on her lips as she read. The complete peace on her face. "You are staring," she said without looking up. "I enjoy looking at you. You are distracting me from my book." "Good." He crossed to her and plucked the book from her hands. "I have a better idea." He pulled her to her feet and led her to the very spot where he had cornered her months ago. The bookshelf where everything had started. "Do you remember this place?" "Yes. You told me my breathing changed when you entered rooms." "It still does, but differently now," she smiled. "Yes. Now it catches because I am happy, not afraid. I am glad." He pressed her back against the bookshelf gently. His arms caged her in, but this time there was no fear, only anticipation, only love. "I have thought about this moment many times, about having you here, about finally being able to do this." He kissed her deeply. She melted into him. Her hands wound into his hair. The library faded away. There was only them, only this. When they finally broke apart, both were flushed and breathless. "I love you," Thea whispered. "And I love you. More than I thought possible. More than I can express." He rested his forehead against hers. "You saved me, Thea. I was drowning in grief and loneliness, and you pulled me back to life. We saved each other. Yes, we did." But happiness is never simple. Trouble arrived one autumn morning in the form of a letter. Sebastian opened it at breakfast and his face went dark. "What is it?" Thea asked. "Your stepmother. She is coming to visit. With your father and stepsisters." Thea's hand shook so hard she dropped her teacup. It shattered on the floor. She stared at the broken pieces like they represented her life. "No. I can refuse them. She will not accept refusal. She will make a scene. She will—" Thea's breath came faster. Panic clawed at her throat. She will see how happy I am. She will find a way to ruin it. She always does. Sebastian was around the table in an instant. He knelt before her and took her hands. Listen to me. She cannot hurt you anymore. I will not allow it. You do not know her. She is cruel. She will say terrible things. She will make you see that I am— Stop! He cupped her face. Nothing she says will change how I see you. Nothing will change how I feel. You are my wife, my love, my everything. And she is simply a bitter woman who tried to break you and failed. Thea wanted to believe him, but fear was a hard habit to break. She had spent years under Constance's control, years of being told she was worthless. Those words did not fade easily. The day of the visit arrived too quickly. Thea dressed in one of her new gowns, a beautiful blue silk that Sebastian said matched her eyes. She pinned up her hair. She practiced smiling in the mirror. She tried to be brave. When the carriage arrived, she stood beside Sebastian in the entrance hall. Her hand was clasped tight in his. She focused on that connection, on his strength, on his love. Constance swept in like a cold wind. She was still beautiful in a hard way, still perfectly poised. Her eyes went immediately to Thea. They narrowed. Theodosia, how changed you look. Thea lifted her chin. Lady Constance, Father, Elizabeth, Anne, welcome. Her father looked older, more tired. But he smiled when he saw her, a real smile. You look well, daughter. Thank you, Father. Your Grace. Constance turned to Sebastian with a dazzling smile. How kind of you to receive us. I do hope our dear Thea has been adequate as your Duchess. I worried, you know. She is not at all accomplished or— My wife is exceptional, Sebastian said coldly. In every way. Constance's smile faltered. She was not used to being interrupted. Of course, I simply meant— I know what you meant, and you are wrong. The room went silent. Thea stared at Sebastian. He was looking at Constance with absolute contempt. No aristocratic politeness, no social niceties, just pure, cold disdain. Shall we take tea? Thea said quickly, trying to ease the tension. In the drawing room, Constance assessed everything with sharp eyes. The expensive furnishings, the beautiful paintings, the obvious wealth. Thea could see her calculating, regretting that she had not tried harder to secure such a match for one of her own daughters. You have done well, Constance said to Thea, but her voice was acid. Better than anyone expected. I suppose even plain girls can find fortune with the right connections. Mother, Elizabeth murmured uncomfortably. Even the stepsisters looked embarrassed. I am simply being truthful. Thea knows I always told her exactly what she was. Someone had to prepare her for reality. Someone had to teach her not to reach beyond her station. Constance sipped her tea delicately. Though I suppose she has exceeded my expectations, for that I am pleased. Each word was a knife, each one designed to remind Thea of her place, of all the years of being told she was less, of being made to feel grateful for scraps. Thea felt the old shame rising, the old instinct to shrink and apologize and accept the judgment. She opened her mouth to agree, to smooth things over, to be the good, quiet girl she had been taught to be. Then she felt Sebastian's hand on hers, steady, strong, reminding her. No, Thea said quietly. Constance blinked. I beg your pardon? No, I do not accept your assessment of me. I am not plain, I am not worthless, I am not fortunate by accident. Thea's voice grew stronger. I am intelligent, I am kind, I am loved, and I have value that has nothing to do with what you think of me." "Theodosia, such rudeness! Is it rude to state the truth?" Thea stood. Her legs shook but held. "You spent years telling me I was nothing, making me believe I should be grateful for any scraps of affection or attention. But you were wrong, and I am done allowing your words to define me." Sebastian stood beside her. His arm went around her waist, a clear statement of support and unity. Constance's face had gone red. "How dare you speak to me this way? After everything I did for you, after I took you into my home." "You made my home a prison," Thea said. Her heart pounded, but her voice stayed steady. "You were cruel. You taught your daughters to be cruel. You tried to break my spirit so completely that I would accept anything, even a loveless marriage to a stranger. That marriage saved you. That marriage became my salvation, but not because of anything you did, because Sebastian is a good man, because he saw value in me that you refused to see, because he loves me." "Loves you?" Constance laughed harshly. "Do not be foolish. Men like him do not love women like you. He married you out of necessity. He will tire of this novelty soon enough, and when he does, you will remember that I was right all along." Sebastian's arm tightened around Thea. When he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. "Get out of my house." "Your Grace, surely—" "Get out!" The command cracked like thunder. "You are not welcome here. You will never be welcome here. If you attempt to contact my wife again, I will ensure you are shunned by every respectable house in England. Do I make myself clear?" Constance gaped at him. No one spoke to her this way. No one dared. "You cannot mean this. Over her? Over that plain little—" "Another word and I will do more than simply bar you from my home. I will investigate how you treated your stepdaughter. I will make certain everyone knows what you are. A cruel, jealous woman who tormented a child in her care." The threat hung in the air. Constance's face went pale. She looked at Thea, then at Sebastian, then at the door. She had lost. She knew it. "Come," she snapped at her daughters and husband. "We are leaving." Thea's father paused at the door. He looked back at her with sad, regretful eyes. "I am sorry," he mouthed. Then he followed his wife out. When the door closed behind them, Thea's legs gave out. Sebastian caught her. He lifted her into his arms and carried her to the sofa. He held her while she shook. Not with tears, with relief, with triumph, with the overwhelming realization that she was finally, truly free. "You stood up to her," Sebastian said softly, stroking her hair. "You were magnificent." "I was terrified." "That makes you even braver." Thea looked up at him. "Did you mean what you said? About investigating her?" "Every word. She will never hurt you again. I swear it." "She was right about one thing, though." Sebastian pulled back to look at her. "What?" "I exceeded her expectations." Thea smiled through her tears. "I found love. Real love. And I became someone I am proud to be. She tried to keep me small, but I grew anyway." "Yes, you did. You are a duchess now, my duchess, and you are loved beyond measure. I love you too, so much. Thank you for defending me, for seeing me, for what? For being exactly who I needed, for being my home." Sebastian kissed her deeply, tenderly. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright with emotion. "You are my home too. I was lost before you, cold and alone and convinced I would never feel warmth again. But you brought light back into my life. You taught me how to love again, how to be human again. We healed each other. We did. And we will continue to heal. Together. Always." 3 months later, Thea stood in the garden looking at the rose she had saved. It was thriving now, covered in blooms. Proof that broken things could be mended, that with care and love, even dying things could flourish. "There you are." She turned to find Sebastian approaching. He had been in London for 3 days on business. She had missed him terribly. His face broke into a smile when he saw her. He crossed the distance in quick strides and pulled her into his arms. "I missed you," he said against her hair. "And I missed you." She pressed closer, breathing in his familiar scent. "How was your trip?" "Tedious, boring, endless." He pulled back to look at her. "But I have news." "What news?" "I have been meeting with solicitors. About your father." Thea tensed. "Why?" "Because I wanted to understand the terms of your stepmother's marriage settlement. And I wanted to know if there was any way to free him from her influence." "Sebastian, you cannot." "I already have. I paid off his debts. Quite substantial ones, it turns out. Your stepmother had been bleeding his estate dry. He was trapped. But now he is free, and he has asked if he might visit you, alone." Thea's breath caught. "My father wants to see me." "Very much. He wrote you a letter. He apologized for failing to protect you. He said he was a coward and he does not deserve your forgiveness. But he hopes you might allow him to try to be your father again." Tears streamed down Thea's face. "You did this for me." "I would do anything for you." Sebastian wiped her tears gently. "You deserved better from him, from everyone. I cannot change the past, but I can try to give you a better future." "I already have the best future. I have you. And I have you, which makes me the luckiest man alive." They stood together in the garden, wrapped in each other's arms. Around them, the roses bloomed. The sun shone warm. Birds sang in the trees. Everything was alive and growing and beautiful. "I have more news," Sebastian said after a moment. "What is it?" "Mrs. Kimball thinks we might need to prepare a nursery soon." Thea pulled back to look at him. "What? How would she?" Then, understanding dawned. Her hand went to her stomach. "Oh." Sebastian's eyes were bright with hope and joy. "Are you?" "I think I might be. I was not certain yet. I wanted to wait to tell you." "A baby. We are having a baby." "Are you happy?" "Happy?" He laughed and spun her in a circle. "I am ecstatic, overwhelmed, terrified, overjoyed." He set her down gently. "We are creating a family, Thea. A real family, built on love." "Yes, we are." Sebastian knelt before her and pressed his ear to her still flat stomach. "Hello, little one," he whispered. "I am your father, and I love you already. So very much. Your mother and I will give you everything. Love, safety, warmth. All the things we did not have. You will never doubt your worth. Never question if you are loved. Because you are. You are loved beyond measure." Thea ran her fingers through his hair, her heart so full she thought it might burst. This man, this wonderful, loving, devoted man. He had taken her broken pieces and helped her become whole. He had seen value in her when she saw none in herself. He had loved her when she thought herself unlovable. And now they were building something new together. A family. A legacy. A love that would endure. Sebastian stood and pulled her close again. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For being brave enough to survive. For coming into my life. For teaching me how to love again. For giving me a reason to be better. For everything. I should be thanking you. Then let us simply agree that we are both fortunate. That we found each other against all odds. That we were given a second chance at happiness. Yes, let us agree on that." They kissed as the sun set behind them, painting the sky in gold and pink. Two broken souls who had found healing in each other. Two lonely hearts that had finally found home. And in the warm embrace of love and twilight, they began to plan their future. A future filled with laughter and children, and roses that bloomed forever. A future where breathing changed when they entered rooms together. Not from fear, but from joy, from love, from the absolute certainty that they were exactly where they belonged. Together, always, forever.